guys, it's Caitlin. Welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be discussing my experience listening to an audiobook. It doesn't really sound that exciting, does it? But I am really not an audiobook person. I just cannot listen to them. I've tried multiple times and it just does not work for me personally. I'm really either a physical book or ebook person. I cannot listen to audiobooks for the life of me. We are going to go through 6 reasons, 6 struggles really, that I had while trying to listen to an audiobook. The audiobook that I decided to listen to was Without You by Marley Valentine because I'm absolutely obsessed with the story. Like, I am in love with it. And I wasn't going to listen to the audiobook, but everyone on Facebook was raving about the narrators and saying how they did such a fantastic job with the story. And I've thought, maybe, but maybe not, because audiobooks are so expensive and I didn't really want to pay for it, which sounds really bad, but like when you don't like audiobooks, it's not quite something that you want to spend that much money on. But then I saw that it was available for free with an Audible trial, so I figured, why the hell not? I'll give it a go, I'll listen to it. It didn't quite work out, so let's get into the reasons why. Reason 1 is that I couldn't really seem to sink into the story the same way that I can with a physical book. I'm not exactly sure why. It's just when I'm reading a physical book, I feel I completely lose track of the world around me and I just get sucked straight into the story, and it's so easy to just lose track of time and just become so obsessed with what is happening in this novel that nothing else really matters. And then listening to an audiobook, it just wasn't the same feeling. I felt like I was constantly checking how long I had left of certain chapters because it just wasn't really interesting me, and I kept looking at the time. It just wasn't really the same, and I know I can't really expect it to be the same because it's completely 2 different formats. It just wasn't really doing it for me in that regard, if that makes sense. I feel like I've explained that horribly. So thank God I'd already read the book and knew what was happening, because not being able to sink into the story meant not being able to concentrate on it, and I had absolutely no idea what was going on in the first couple of chapters, even though I'd already read it. And I was like, if I'm just delving into like a random audiobook, having absolutely no backstory into it whatsoever, I would have been completely lost. The second reason is that I kept getting confused between the characters' voices and the dialogue. I have no idea how that happened, but you know, when you're reading a book, you see the quotation marks, it's really simple to follow along. An audiobook, I was listening to it and I'm thinking, wait, was he saying that or was he thinking that? And then I lost track of thought trying to figure out which one was which, and by the time I actually realized, I'd missed like 3 minutes of the book, and so I kept having to rewind to listen to things. Listening to it so interrupted, it just didn't quite do it for me, and I feel like that just really took away from the experience. Reason number 3 is that I kept laughing at the different voices that the narrators were using for each character, and I know that that's a bad thing to say, but for someone who has never listened to a full audiobook and you've got 2 like very masculine sounding narrators putting on very feminine voices for like the sisters and the mother characters, it just completely hit me by surprise when I was listening to the first chapter. I have no idea what I was expecting when it comes to like differentiating between certain characters, but that wasn't it. Reason number 4 is that I was really worried about my phone actually connecting to one of our Bluetooth devices while I was listening to this and then just loudly narrating a sex scene to my entire household, which would scar me for life. So Without You is a male-male romance. There are several steamy scenes throughout the book that, you know, you love reading in private, but if any of those were broadcasted to my family, my paranoia was like sky high. Like I don't even know where it came from. Like there was no chance that my phone could have connected to any of those devices because we have to do them manually with the ones in my house, but like didn't stop my brain from like having to pull out the headphones every couple of minutes and just be like, hang on, is this playing anywhere else or is it just through my headphones? Like I was so worried about it happening. I don't really care if my parents know what I read, but I don't want them listening to like certain scenes, you know? Number 5 is that I cannot stop fidgeting. So like, you know, when you're holding a book, you've got it in your hands, you're flipping the pages, like it sounds so bad trying to describe it like this, but you're doing something with your hands, and I'm someone who always has to keep my hands occupied with something or else I'm just fiddling and I'm completely just distracted. So trying to listen to an audiobook where I am not focusing whatsoever because my hands are doing just random shit all the time didn't exactly work in my favor. Because like I'd be lying in bed listening to it and just fidgeting with my hands, and then realize I'm focusing too much on fidgeting with my hands that I haven't been listening. So I try to listen and then realize I'm focusing on listening too much that I'm not actually listening, and I know that probably makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Lastly, reason number 6 is that I fell asleep. I mean, I was kind of expecting it to happen because when I'm reading a story, like I mentioned earlier, I really love being able to sink into it fully, and I was having trouble doing that, not being able to focus on anything. So when you're reading, like your eyes are following along with the words, and it's just so much easier that way, at least for me personally. But listening to an audiobook, I found it really hard to keep listening while my eyes were just wandering around the room and focusing on different things. So what I was doing instead was I was lying in bed, even like during daylight hours, and I would have my eyes closed so that all I'm focusing on is listening to that story in my ears. And I ended up falling asleep. You know, that's very easy to do when it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, you're trying to listen to an audiobook. I just found it really hard because like I would be lying in bed with my headphones in, listening to the story, like I'm tucked in, the lights are off because I'm just trying to focus on listening. And next thing you know, I'm waking up like 20 minutes later and a couple of chapters have gone by and I'm like, well, shit. But anyway, those are the 6 reasons that I struggled in my experience with listening to an audiobook. This video has been absolutely all over the place. I wrote these notes maybe a month ago when I was listening to the Without You audiobook. But yeah, if you haven't read Without You by Marley Valentine, I would 100% recommend picking it up because I absolutely adored it. It is one of my favorites so far this year, and Marley Valentine has actually become one of my impulse buy authors recently. So as soon as I see that she's coming with a new book, I'm like immediate purchase. And also an added bonus, she is an Australian author, which I didn't even realize until after I'd already read a couple of her books. So how exciting is that? Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Be sure to give it a big thumbs up if you did enjoy it, and let me know down below if you like listening to audiobooks, if you have any tips that might help me get over these struggles, because I do really like the idea of listening to them, but as we can tell, it's just not really my thing. But anyway, I will see you guys with another video next week. See you later.